this computer, go to Python, attendance. It always takes so long for it to load. Anyway, under your modules, I try to update it on the weekend. So I haven't finished. So module 5 is up. I posted videos on Sunday. Sorry they came late, but I did put down what you had. I also still have to write what's going to be in the lab, but I have the source of what we're doing. So again, if you want me to slow down, I will slow down with the material. I know that the for loops or nested for loops specifically, are giving people some trouble. That's kind of intentional. Nested for loops are tricky, and they are tricky the first time you experience them. Okay. Where'd my chat window go? Chat. There, behind. Okay. So today's exercise is supposed to help us with the for loops, and we're also going to learn out how to use if statements. So again, link to it, we can just simply click it over here, project 6. And this will be computing statistics with Kiva. So we'll be looking at how we can use Python to do some basic statistical analysis today. So Kiva is this pretty cool website. You can lend it was before GoFundMe was a thing. But essentially what differentiates it from a GoFundMe is its emphasis on loans, as opposed to just, you don't donate money, you lend money. And then when the loan's paid back, you can re-lend that money. It's a pretty cool system. It enables you to make very small loans to people who need small amounts of money all over the world. So it's really cool. And this is just a random sampling of the data. Here's some rows of from our data, just this big table of data, right? Loan ID, how much money was loaned, what country it came from, whether it was funded or not. Turns out they were all funded, so they don't bother keeping track of that data. The amount of time it took to raise that money, I assume that's in seconds as opposed to days, and the number of people who lent. So, right, this was one loan that was made to someone in Azerbaijan, and it was 38 lenders who basically put together the money. All right. Yeah. Oh, good. The attendance finally decided to do what it needed to do. All right. So, and I see one more person saying that they haven't gotten their quiz reset. Okay, I will handle that right now. So reset student exam. Okay. And reset. Okay. So don't worry about the attendance. I've started the attendance. Sign in, please, if you can. But I mean, again, you're just going to get an annoying email. I'm doing it until they tell me to stop. Okay. So we have this data here. There are more advanced tools that are used, but right now we're going to use the basic tools that we've learned. So what we're going to do is that we're representing each item, each of these columns as a list. So loan amount, right? 1250, 500, 1450, 200. They're all lists together. See, 1250, 500. Whoops. So let's see. 1250, 500, 1450, 200, 700, 100, 250, 225, 1200. Loan amount and down. When will the first quiz be put towards our grade? I'll probably put it in Canvas this weekend, but I mean, it's, you can use your grades to calculate it. So I'll work on this. I'll work on it after class if it's that, since it seems to be annoying a number of people. So, all right. So same here, you've got the country names for, so you've got your loan amounts, you've got your country names, you've got your time to raise. Now the big thing here is that because they're in lists together, or they're each in a list, they each share a similar indice. So like, for instance, for the very first item, I could say print loan underscore amount, assuming I could spell it correctly, loan amount 0, comma. If you're late, just please get it to me as soon as possible. And if you're able to get it in before I run the grader, great. 2. So here, let's just go ahead and see. If we print this out, not loan amount, my bad. So this prints out just the items in this. So here, 1250, 500, 1450. But if we change this to printing out 0, and instead doing, let's say, country underscore name. Why is it inserting? Why is it overwriting? 0. Country name, time to raise 0. We can see that this will print out all the items in the very first row. Or it'll print out everything but the num lenders because I didn't bother printing that out. So prints out that very first row. So you can get the country that corresponds to that loan by just using the same index. So let's look at the first questions that we're going to look at here. And one important thing, just to make this easier, this code is automatically kind of been preloaded invisibly into a bunch of your into the other windows. So here, right, I can say loan amount. I can say loan amount 1, and I can print that out. And even though I haven't declared a loan amount, right, it will run. Notice that it says I failed the tests on there, but that's fine. But notice that loan amount exists. So all these things, it will exist in all the windows. All right, but now we're going to examine some basic questions. Yes, Laser, I'm okay. What is the total amount of money loaned? What is the average loan amount? What are the smallest and largest loans? The first thing on your quiz? All right. So I will make a separate Discord channel for quiz issues, because that way I can go through them all. Yes, Laser, you can drink your own water. So what is the smallest, largest? So I will, please hold quiz issues until the end of class, and I will address them, okay? So we'll want to answer these questions. We're going to rephrase them down here. Okay, so compute the total amount of money loaned and stored in loan total. So let's go ahead and do that one. So this is a very common operation. This is going to use the accumulator operation. So loan underscore total is equal to, well, we've got our loan total. So for item or for amount in loan total, print, we can print out our amount that's been stored in here. It says loan to, oh right, loan amount. For amount, my brain is all over the place. I've been having a hard time just doing some stuff recently. So there, we can print out all the values in there. All right, makes sense to everybody so far? Have I lost anyone? So now we want to compute the total amount of money and store it in loan total. So how do we do that? So how would I do this? Anyone? Yep. So what we can do is use the what's called the accumulator pattern. So we'll start out with loan total equals 0, and then we're going to, and we start at 0 because we need to start with some amount. And what we're going to do is we're going to add each amount that we find to that total. So what we'll do is amount plus, or rather, loan total is equal to the amount we've previously seen, loan total equal to plus amount. All right, and there, and that will, and that worked. Use the loan total, we used an accumulator pattern to add up all the loans. And then notice it says you may not use sum. One of my personal favorite things that it was checking for was actually, we can actually simplify this. The accumulator pattern and just summing up something is so common in Python that we can use sum loan total for some loan amount, and we can print out the, and that would give us the, basically this would effectively do what we had done here. So sum does exactly what you would think it would do. I'll go ahead and share this with you. So the next code, compute the average amount of money loaned and stored in loan average. So what is the average? The average is the total amount of money, right, that we have, divided by the number of loans that have been made, right? The average of anything is, like, for instance, if we wanted to take the, if we wanted the average height of everybody in the class, we'd take everybody's heights, add them together, and divide by how many people are in the class. His block staircase broke. All right, so go ahead and work on this on your own for maybe 5 minutes and see where you get on this one. Feel free to discuss in the chat how to do it, or on the Discord. And then we'll get back, and then I will get back to you in like in 5 minutes. I've shared this code with you, so go ahead and work on the second one. Resume recording. Okay. Loan average divided by length of loan amount. So this is the list of all the loans. This is the sum of everything in that. And now we're going to store it in there. And in case you're wondering, I don't have an answer key. I just am assuming this is what they would want. So I do pass the tests. All right. Store the minimum loan in min loan and the maximum loan in max loan. This one's fairly easy, actually. Min loan, max loan. This is the one's actually going to take me 2 lines. Oh, sorry. Will take me 4 lines. So min loan, store the amount of the minimum loan in min loan and store the name of the country that received that minimum loan. All right. This one is going to be using a bit of, yes, can I share that? Sure, I will share this. Okay, now this one's kind of fun because it doesn't require any for loops. It requires us making use of a couple of different functions, which I want to go over. A lot of times, again, Python has stuff built in here that is really awesome. So min loan is equal to, so remember, I've mentioned this a couple times, but you can find the minimum and maximum of anything in Python by just throwing it into the min and max function, right? So we've seen it when I say, hey, what's the biggest number? Right? But we can also figure out what the biggest thing of a list by throwing it in over here. And that will give me the biggest thing in the list. Pretty handy, right? So, so max loan is equal to this. And if we've got a minimum, if we've got a maximum, we can do a minimum as well. So we're going to run this, even though we're not finished yet, just to see that we can check it off. And so we find that the smallest loan that was made in our data set was 100, and the largest was 1,800. Okay, now it says that minimum country was not defined. So we want to find the name of the country that stored the largest loan in max country and the smallest loan in min country. So this one's actually a bit trickier. So, but remember, we're going to use the fact that this is a table. So I'm doing this one because it's a bit of a leap. Now, if we look at the table, right, we see that basically that there's only one loan of 100 amount here, and it's this one, which means it was the Philippines. But I don't want to look for that. That is completely correct, Kristen. We will use the index function. So what we have here is the index function. It's a really handy thing where given something, print loan amount dot index min underscore loan. It still feels weird even to me to do this. So we've got loan amount, which is our sequence here. And you can use dot index to ask it, hey, give me the index of this thing. Give me the index of where we first find this. And it says you found this at index 5, which kind of makes sense. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, index 5. Oh, one person funded that. Good for them. Okay. So we've got a min loan and a max loan here. Okay. So we found that the minimum loan was this amount. Or sorry, we found that the minimum loan was located at this index of min. Makes sense? So let me go ahead and do idle. 1 second, I'm going to boot up idle. Right, so here, if I've got a list L is equal to 1, 2, if I've got 1.
We can't see.
Sorry?
We can't see idle.
You can't see idle. Am I not screen sharing idle? Am I not screen sharing period? Give me a second. Screen share, share, screen one. Do you not see the idle?
Now we see it. Earlier
We
we
see it
saw
now.
the runestone, but not idle. Now we see both.
Okay, cool. Cool. I must have accidentally shared display one. Yeah, window sharing. Yeah, okay. Cool. Thought it was screen sharing. Okay, so here I've got my idle here. So if I do l.index of Apple, whoops, assuming I don't hit the enter key prematurely, it will tell me what index Apple occurred at, right? Which is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Now let's go ahead, thing I am looking for is equal to, let's say 452. So say that this is a variable representing the thing I am looking for. Because people understand this pretty well when you throw a specific thing at it. So l.index thing I am looking for. So it tells me 2. It was an index 2. Make sense so far? Okay, so we found out in here that the minimum loan was this much, 100. So 100 gets stored in here, and then we're asking what index is index of mon. Okay, what index is this at? So we can figure that out by just asking it, by feeding it 100, and it will tell me what index 100 is at. And then I can do the same thing for the maximum value as well. Make sense? Following it? So we've got so we know what the minimum amount is. We know what the maximum amount is. We now know where they are. And because we know where they are, we can, and I'll go ahead and organize this just to actually, like that. And so now we know where they are. We can say, hey, what is the minimum country? What is the country that got the smallest loan? Min country is equal to, and so what is the column with all the countries in it? Country name. I don't want to, I'm lazy, I'm not going to type that out. I'm going to go down here and say minimum country is equal to country name at index of min. And this is because they all that everything in that row shares that index. And then over here, I'm just going to say, switch this from min to max. Max country, max. Save and run. Hey, look at that. All right. Compute the average number of lenders per a loan and store it in the variable average lenders. Average number of lenders per loan and stored it. So first off, so this is just simply doing what you've already done before. So it's definitely something you're gonna do again for repetition's sake. Okay, here, right? Each of these columns is the loan. This is the number of people who lended to that. So we want to find the average number of lenders per a loan. You probably have to reload to see the shared code and then use this dial over here. So go ahead and do this one. The only difference between this one and our previous question over here is what the data we're going over is. Instead of working over loan amount, we're doing num lenders total, which is the number of people who actually lent out to somebody. Right? Just simply hit load history and it will show you, and it will put my code. What my sharing does, put my code in your history. Okay? And then we will take 2 minutes to do activity 5, and then we're going to meet back for activity 6. because I want to brainstorm that one with you. I want to see if there's a way to do it. Oof. A good way to do it without having to use an if statement, but it's okay if we have to use an if statement there. You can only go so far without if statements. Okay, and I will be back. 2 minutes. Recording. All right, humans when counting things manually are prone to error. So like counting stuff like this, Philippines, like going down, I just find counting stuff boring, manually especially. So let's not do that. Let's make the computer do that for us. Now I believe that there should be some code automatically that does that for us. So country name is the list with all the countries, right? That correspond to our loans. So equal to. Okay, yeah. We can do this with that. Okay, now that I've been thinking and working for a bit, I figured out you don't have to use if statements. You just make use of stuff like this. Count Philippines. Okay. Now we're going to store that in Philippine counts. Okay, and now we'll see whether or not it yells at me, or whether or not I'm suffering from cryptomentia. 0. So that just means I spelled it wrong. 2 P's. Oh, what did I do wrong? Why is it not working? Anyone? Yep. I put a space at the end of the Philippines. It's literally looking for, in the list, Philippines space. That was not a intentional error. That was a error that I made unintentional. And I didn't immediately catch it. Again, I'm possibly because I've got a dinosaur on my head. Okay. All right. Now for each unique country name, print a line that shows the name of the country and then the number of loans made to that country. Like this, Guatemala 1. So this one we need a for loop for. So what we're going to do, so this one's actually pretty cool. What we're going to do is that we are going to loop through this country name, or specifically, we're going to loop through this unique countries. So for each country in unique countries, so it provided us this really useful list, which is a list where all the countries just appear once. Can I fix the stairs that you built? I'm sorry, I'm busy teaching. Annie, Laser would like some help fixing his stairs. So I'm a bit preoccupied. For country in unique country in unique countries. So for every country there is, what we're going to do is we're going to do what we did up here, right? Which is country name.count. But instead of doing Philippines, we're going to get the count of the variable. And we're going to run this, and it's not going to be fully correct because it says use an accumulator pattern to add up all the loans. So do I need to use an accumulator pattern to add up all the net loans? Really? Expected Guatemala 1. There's no need for that because I think all I have to do here is, well, what any
says you have to print.
What? Yeah.
It says you have to print it.
Yep. I not only have to print it, but I have to print out the name as well, which is pretty easy. I was just more seeing the fact that it says you need an accumulator, which you don't. You just need to use count. Make sense to everybody? All
We're
right.
just taking a country name.
Country name?
Yeah.
Country name.
Is that-
Country name is one of those that has automatically been loaded into all the code blocks.
But I thought we had to use unique countries.
Right. I did use unique countries. I used them over here, where I said for country and unique countries, give me the amount of times it occurs in country name.
Oh, okay.
Love that sound. The sudden realization. It's why I teach. All right. So here, what is level 2 questions? Can you explain why you have country over here? Okay, so I have print country and country name. Or are you saying, why do I have country on line 4, or why is there country on line 5?
Print statement? Like, why do you have that? Like, what does that do?
So this is just simply the variable name. So for each variable name in this, what am I going to do? I'm going to print out that variable name. And then I'm going to also print out the number of times that country name appears in the country name list. Does that?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm printing out. I mean, I could have just called this for name in, but I mean, and if we would have done the same thing, but I prefer country because for country and unique country makes sense. And now that I'm staring at country, I'm wondering why we don't pronounce it country, because it's just, all right. So why is the average number of loans? So what is the average number of loans made in the Philippines? So in what country was the loan granted that took the longest to fund? What is the average amount of time or dollars it takes to fund a loan? What is the standard deviation? Oh no, standard deviation. I don't remember those. I seriously don't. I mean, I do remember them, but like remembering them all is. Ugh. Okay, and was there a relationship between the loan amount and the number of people or time to fund? How would we measure this? Covariance, correlation? So it really just kind of amps up the difficulty over here. My wife was either video recording or taking a picture. So just a picture. Yeah, I figured I'd use your hat. All right, so what is the average amount of loans made to people in the Philippines? So it gives us the indices of all the Philippines, or rather the index positions of all the rows with the Philippines in it. So go ahead and try working on this one, the activity 8, for about 5 minutes, and then I will work on it with you. Okay? Okay, so I'll go ahead and share this one, activity 6. I think, was that 6? No, that was activity 7. Go ahead and share activity 6. Arithmetic mean is average. Yeah, the average of individuals' time dollar calculations, not the sum of time. Ah, okay. Okay, well, let's go ahead and start up here where we currently are. So the index positions for the Philippines are 5, 6, 9, 11, 13, 14, 22. So what we can do is say for index in, and I'm going to go ahead and just copy this because yoink. So this gives me an index for the average loan amount. So what is the average loan amount called? Well, it is the loan amount. So loan amount index. So that's how you can grab that the appropriate index. So now what do we want to do with it now that we get each of them? We want the average loan amount for each of them. So that means we got to add them up. So total is equal to 0. Total plus equals loan amount in the index. And then yeah, we can then figure out how big this is using the length function. But yeah, why not? Because I'm already copy pasting it. So then Philippines average, P average is equal to the length divided by, so the total divided by the length. There we go. So that's how you solve that one. Now, what is the name of the country that took the longest to raise? So longest to fund. So longest to fund. First, we need to find out which country was. So I'm going to do this in one line because why not? So time to raise, right? That is the. So this is very similar to the one we've already done. So time to raise is the list that has all the list of all the times that it took to raise something. Okay, to find the largest value in there, we ask what the maximum is, and that gives us the index. Gives us the value that's there. Index of this, or rather, index of country name. No, index of time to raise will give me the index of where that's located. Make sense so far? And then I'll throw that into country. Now, if this looks horrible to you, it should. This is actually. So notice it says hint, max and index are your friends. So what would I do? I worked from the inside out, and it also helped that I knew what I was doing. Don't do this. This is a terrible idea. Don't make one-liners like I just did. They're horrible and hard to raise. So instead, let's just go ahead and take this out and break it down into the reasonable steps. Right? Each time we basically do a parenthesis, let's go ahead and pull it out. So time to raise is, so So let's go ahead and say that that is the longest time. Right? Makes sense? That's the longest time. Max time to raise gives us the biggest time in there, right? Which, if we look up, is, I think, this one, probably this one. Yeah, very long time to raise that loan. Okay, so that gives us that value. Now we want to find where that value is in the list. So we ask, well, where you found it for me using the max function, we're going to use the index function to find where that is. Index of longest. Makes sense? So longest time, we grab the index of the longest, and then we just throw it in there. So again, this is equivalent to what I had done earlier, but without the impossible to read readness of it. All right. What is the arithmetic mean of the time dollar that it takes to find time per dollar that it takes to fund a loan? The arithmetic mean is the really upping the ante here. I don't quite understand what they mean, even though I understand how to compute it, which is fine. The individual time dollar calculation, not the average sum of time divided by the average sum of dollar amounts. Let's go ahead and run it. A mean is not defined. Aim. So let's see what the hints give us. 8 mean is equal to 0. So boom. Use your accumulator pattern to add up all the loans. Okay. So the average, the arithmetic mean is the average number of time / dollar calculation. So accumulator to average mean. Oh, okay. I got it now. Yeah, I should have shared the code for all these so far. Yep, calculate the time, all the time dollar values. So the amount of time per the amount of dollars. So we're essentially going over 2 lists at the same time. What a pain. So what it's asking is that we don't want to figure out what the amount of time, the average amount of time divided by the average number of dollars. We want to figure out for each loan, it took amount of this time. There was this ratio of time to dollars. So figure out the average amount of time to dollars is. Why is that interesting? I don't know. Let's go ahead and find out. So, but basically it's saying it took, what we're trying to figure out is that it took this many seconds to get $1. So so what we're going to do is that we can't, because we need to go over 2 things at once. So there's a couple ways to do this. The first is that we can go through indices. So for instance, we could do 4 index 4. Sorry? Total is equal to 0. So for I in range length of loan amount. So we could figure that out, and then we could say the for I in range loan amount, we can say amount, or we can say time is equal to time to raise I, and then loan underscore amount is equal to And so notice that this goes over both of them. Basically, I'm getting the amount that was in a loan. Sorry, the amount of time it took to do a loan, and the amount it took. And then total is equal to time divided by amount, because that's what it wants. You need an accumulator pattern to add up all the loans. Plus equal. So print total. Okay, and then divide by length of then the number of things I added up. Gotcha. Okay. So this was the answer. A mean is equal to this. So what this is saying is that this is saying that, okay, let's go and look at each dollar. Let's look at each amount of time it took for each loan and the amount of time it took for each loan. And we're going to divide those two, and we're going to add them to each one of those to total. So that's an excellent question. What does I do again? So this is the one way to do it. Okay, but I'm going to teach you something that's not in the book quite yet. That's going to make this a bit easier. So I is the index. So range, right, produces. So first off, length is the number of items there is, right? Range basically creates a list from 0 up to, but not including that number. So say if there's 10 items, this will create all the numbers from 0 up to, but not including 10. Okay, so index. Why use a mean instead of print? Because we want to store, because it says up here, store your result in a mean rather than printing it. So I will be 0, index 0. So we grab the amount of time. So we grab the amount of time it took at index 0, as well as the amount, and then we divide it. So basically we'll come out and say, hey, it took this many seconds per each dollar. Then we'll look at this and say, hey, divide this by 500. It took this many seconds divided by 500 to get this many dollars. Make sense to everybody so far? Okay, but I know that basically working with indices like this looks kind of clunky, and it is. So let me just look it up very quickly, which is using, and it's called the Python zip argument. So it's a really cool thing you can do. You can zip two things to iterate over together, I believe. And I'm just refreshing my mind on how to do it because okay. Yep, there we go. That's what I thought it was. Okay. So I can go ahead. So this is one way to do this, basically using the indices. But there's another way we can do this, exact same thing, using the way that I'm much more comfortable with, which is you can go and iterate over two things at once. For time, comma, amount. So notice I have a comma in there, right? So rather than doing one variable, I'm going to use two here. The book doesn't go over this, but I'm going to totally go over it because it's a great time to do it. In zip. And then notice zip time to raise loan amount. So we're zipping the two lists together essentially in a for loop. So basically we're going to go over them at the same time, and then we can just take this final line over here. And you'll notice that it works perfectly well. So what this allows us to do is that if those two things, so this is kind of the perfect use case for the zip. And what that does is that basically allows us to go through two lists at the same time, which if you're coming from another programming language, makes you go, dang, that's useful. Only possibly more in more expletive terms. All right. So, any questions on this one so far? Because I'm sure. So you can go through, so rather than having to mess with indices, you don't have to worry about the indices if you're using two things at the same time. All right.
If you want to combine one or more than one list, do you always have to use zip?
This is the easiest way to do it like this. I mean, you notice I did it without the zip right over here, right? But if you want to go through multiple ones in parallel, so, all right. I think this will probably be our final problem for the day, because this is asking, because I've got a better handle on how to explain what this is asking for, right? Every loan is made, so let's go ahead. Yeah, so to get this, you just simply, first off, to get the code I share, you hit load history. Okay, and that will load it up. I'll go ahead and share this with you so you have it to reference. But so first off, what it's asking for the arithmetic mean of time dollar it takes to fund a loan was the time dollar ratio, essentially. So in other words, this loan had basically, let's say that's, well, let's go ahead and open up our calculator. It took this many seconds, and it was this many dollars. So we was a $1,250 loan, and it took 193,000 seconds to raise it. Okay. So for every single dollar, on average, it took 154 seconds for every dollar to come in, right? Dollars don't typically come in one at a time, right? They come in lump sums, right? Makes sense so far? So this is saying if we were to like stretch it across the amount of time it took to raise that amount, there would have been 154 seconds between every dollar, or approximately 2.5 minutes between every dollar. So we're asking is, on average, what is the average amount? On average, how long does a loan have to wait to get to go up $1? Right? What is the average time between dollars? Does that make sense to everybody now? Now that I've rephrased that problem, we're trying to find the average amount of time between dollars. But it said it wanted us to find it out not by adding all the individual dollars together and all the individual times together. That would have given us a kind of different answer. This would actually, if I had time, it would be a great time to go over the Simpsons Paradox, which is where taking averages over different things can lead to very different results. But so what we had to do then was, for every loan, we asked how many dollars. So what we did over here is said, hey, let's go ahead and figure out let's go through each of the indices. So what are the indices? And again, just to reiterate, I went through and made sure, I was worried that people weren't watching the videos, but I went through and made a lot of, oh no, I will start your TV show again, Laser, after class. So I went over and I've explained in better detail how the range function works. I even went These two videos are the longest over here. They go over nested loops. Each of those are about 15 minutes, where we are modifying the picture of a shocked Pikachu face, because why not? I figure might as well use something amusing. It's a meme that's near and dear to my heart. Anyway, so for this gives us basically a list of all the values from 0 up to, but not including how many items there are, how many loans there are. So this allows us to go over all the indices where I is the index. Okay. So time, so we grab the amount of time at that index, the amount of money at that index, and we divide it and add it to total. Okay. And then we simply divide, and then if this wasn't existing, we just would simply divide total by the number of loans, right? Which would have said, hey, this is the average amount of seconds per dollar it takes per loan. The way I also showed you how to do it is that we can zip up two lists together to iterate over them at the same time, right? So rather than iterating over, right? So this, normally we were saying, okay, for each item in loan amount, 1, 2, we just go down like this. But now the way I was doing it is saying we can pair these two values, so we can do a pair of them. And I was about to gesture at my screen with my hand and then realized that was a completely useless gesture that you would not be able to see. But basically the zip allows us to go over two things at once. So it allows us to iterate over two lists at the same time. So here it's saying, give me the first thing in time as well as give me the first thing in time to raise as well as the first thing in loan. Then give me the second thing in time to raise and the second thing in loan together. So it goes through them at the exact same time. And so it gives me all the sequential pairs. It doesn't give me like all the pairings, right? That would be a bit insane. Do time and amount have the same value? No. The time is all the items in time, gets all the values from time to raise, and amount goes from loan amount. Basically, the first variable goes with the first list, and the second variable is the second list. It's like having two for loops that are running simultaneously. Does that make sense? So there is one other yeah, I believe so. So Aaron asks, should the values have to be the same length? Well, let's just go ahead and make loan amount just one bigger and run it. And apparently that's fine. I figured they would have to be the same. So let's go ahead and say loan amount is equal to 1, 2. So I'm going to go ahead and make loan amount. I'm going to replace loan amount and make it small. And as it still runs, you can see that the lists do not have to be the same length. It's just going to stop right at the smaller one, I guess. I've never actually tried using it, so I cannot accurately answer that. We could totally do more than, we could totally do another one. Like you can have as many of these zip together as, but typically you just want to do pairs. Okay, before I sign off, first off, I'm going to knock off these last two, but you can do them on your own if you want to. But what we can see, there is one more useful function we will learn in Python that does a similar thing, which is we will eventually allow you to do or show you how to do enumerate, which so what you could do with enumerate is you can go and if you enumerate over a list, it allows you to go over the index and the value at the same time. It is 3:19. I know that people have class next, so I'm going to go ahead and stop recording. You're dismissed. If you need to go ahead and demo or have questions for me, I will stay behind, but I'm first going to get some water. Okay? So I will be right back. Also, I will probably be out of contact on Monday, and so on next Monday. So just keep that in mind.